Hello, I'm Dr. Eric Mazer.
And I'm Dr. Vicky Smitak. Today we're going to talk about how to live a healthy life with Teresa Argondesi and Marianne Gennario. They are the Healthy Living co-leads for the Greater Norwalk Community Health Improvement Plan collaboration.
You did that perfectly.
Thank you.
Teresa is also health educator with the Norwalk Health Department, and Marianne is health and fitness director and the chronic disease prevention coordinator for the Riverbrook Regional YMCA. I got that out, but not as well as you did the first one.
Yes,
Thank you both for joining
us
on the show.
Thank
I'm
you for
exhausted
having us.
already.
and the Riverbrook Regional YMCA, let's just put it out there because that's a new term, relatively speaking, that
Yes.
encompasses which towns?
It encompasses Norwalk, Wilton, and Reading.
Okay, that's great.
So we hear from everywhere today, eat healthily, exercise more. Much easier said than done. So you're involved with a group to actually try to promote these ideas. How do you do it? How do you get people to do what's not easy for many of us?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think what our group is looking to do is to try to make it as easy as possible, make it as appealing as possible. So I think often people see healthy eating and physical activity as a chore or a burden, and what we'd like to do is to make sure that the environment they live in, that they work in, that they play in is as conducive to those things as possible and makes it appealing and a fun choice, an easy choice to eat a healthy diet and to get some exercise.
Right, because we know that if it's not fun, we're not going to do it. I can tell you that from personal experience. There has to be something in it for me to want to keep doing that, and I think for everybody. Now, this initiative came out of a health needs assessment. Historically, maybe you can take us back a little bit and tell us how this collaboration originated.
Sure. In 2012, the Norwalk Hospital and Norwalk Health Department collaborated to do a comprehensive community health assessment in Norwalk and a lot of the surrounding towns. And as part of that assessment, the community members, we did 15 focus groups maybe and several key informant interviews to determine what did the community feel were the needs and the health priorities that we needed to address. And mental health and substance abuse was one of those, and Dr. Tate here at the hospital is doing really wonderful work around that. And then obesity and chronic disease were other areas that they identified as important. So we turned that assessment into a community health improvement plan to figure out strategies based in public health evidence to help our community members live healthier lives, be more active, eat healthier diets to help reduce those conditions.
Or birthed from that initiative. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That was a very positive outcome then.
And
Yeah.
Marianne, this is like a natural segue then for you, given your background and what you do at the YMCA,
Yes.
that did Teresa come knocking on your door one day and say, hey, we
Pretty
have
much.
something for you?
Thank goodness
Pretty
she said
much.
yes.
And the goal is to increase the number of children and adults who are able to meet the physical activity guidelines and to help provide access to healthy food and nutritious food for that group. So I think for both of us, it's something that we were both very passionate about. And
Talking
That's
about
great.
children and focusing on children, I have two granddaughters at home, actually not at my home, my son's home, but they're 7 and 8, and it seems like for kids, physical activity comes very naturally. I noticed that they never walk, they run, they hop, they skip, they don't stand in one place, they do cartwheels. How has this been deprogrammed from them? Because I remember as a child myself, what did I do after school? I went out and I played basketball or a pickup game of baseball or football. We were always moving. That's changed though for the kids today, hasn't it?
It really has. So I think there's lots of issues. Some of it is concerns about safety. Some of it is the built environment. Do the kids have spaces to play?
Right.
A lot of it is an increased structure in their day. If they're at school, there's a lot of emphasis on academic time. What we're trying to
And even
communicate
after
to people.
school, a lot of kids
Yeah.
are programmed for a whole host of things to get them into one of the elite colleges.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what we're trying to communicate is that fit kids are more eager to learn. They're more alert. They're more focused. They're probably attending school on a more regular basis. So eating a healthy diet, being well nourished, and then also having plenty of time to be active is helpful.
Video games and social media. Those are two things that are totally new for this generation.
And that takes
how much
away
do they
from
replace
physical
playtime
activity.
for young adolescents, teenagers, and above? Has that really had an impact on people's physical activity?
I think it has, and I think the goal now is to
And I don't want to
reduce-
bash this. I understand it.
No,
It's
and-
part of our lifestyle now.
And
So.
that being said, it's important that they do have access to it because even, as part of their schoolwork, they do need, to be on the computer in order to access information necessary for
Right.
assignments. But the recommendation is to limit it to 1 hour a day so that, and that should include your schoolwork, your school time.
Yeah.
But as you had said, you mentioned, when your children, there's this great love for playing sports or, being physically active. It comes very easy. And as adults, we tend to get away from that, and we view physical activity as exercise or belonging to a gym.
That has to be done somewhere
something that has to
specifically.
be done
Right.
somewhere specific. But if you look back on your childhood and of the things that you loved to do, whether it was dancing or, taking a walk or running or playing ball, all of those things can be incorporated into your life as an adult and still be considered.
It seems to me that people, if you're sedentary and you decide, well, I'm going to become active and live healthy, you end up setting the bar way up here. I'm going to join a gym, I'm going to exercise. And you set the bar so high that you don't do anything. And it's so much easier, as you said, to incorporate things into your life. So walk up the stairs rather than taking the elevator, or park your car a little further away. Take a walk on a Sunday morning rather than sitting and watching TV.
And make it a
These are
family-
easy things to do.
Right, and to make it a family-wide event, right, and corporate, because children learn by example to a very large extent. So it's one thing for a parent to be saying you should be out there playing basketball or go out and take a walk. It's another thing to actually do it with your child and show that you too are making the effort to say this is a priority. We all need to get more fit, more active. We all need to be eating better. And I think that's really important for us to get that message out, that it's not about, like you said, setting the bar up here. It's about making small
Yeah, 'cause
changes, but making them together as a
And,
family.
and making the changes, and
Absolutely.
again, I can get very preachy about this, but making the changes permanently. It's not, I'm going to do this for a month and then I'll be in shape, or I'm going to diet for 3 weeks and then I'll be thin.
Yeah.
It really has to be a change in the way you think.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have 3 Big Macs when I sit down for
And
dinner. Period.
something that we say all the time is, to people, is to start where you are. So, you're not going to run a marathon if you haven't really been doing much
I
walking
guarantee I
or
will
running.
never run a marathon.
Yeah.
That was the truest thing you've said so far today.
So if your goal, the recommendations for kids is to get 60 minutes of playtime a day, and for adults is 150 minutes a week, which is something along the lines of 30 minutes a day on most days.
Yeah.
But that can seem really intimidating for someone that doesn't get a lot of exercise. So, I love your example to make it a family event. So if you can add an extra half an hour of taking the kids to the park and swinging
Right.
on the swings, that's a great incremental change that you can make, and then build on that as
And
you
if
go.
you play with your
Yeah.
kids, you'll find you're very exhausted.
Absolutely.
I've learned
Exactly.
with my granddaughters that taking them to the park is not a sedentary activity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think I think what happens is when we hear the 60 minutes or the 30 minutes, that people think of it as, trying to get that time all at once, but it doesn't have to be continuous. It can
be over the course of
intermittent.
the
It could
day.
be over the course of the day. You could take 3 short 10-minute walks and during the course of the day and still have achieved your goal. So I think
I
looking
know a number
at
of people at Norwalk Hospital who literally do it in the
Who
halls
do it
of
in
the
the hallway,
hospital,
yeah.
or walk up and down the stairs as a way of fitting exercise into a busy day.
We have a little bit of a discussion that we have a lot of times when we work with kids. If we tell them they want to get 60 minutes of playtime or active time, but then we start listing all the ways that they're active.
Yeah.
Do you walk your dog after school? Do you help
Right.
around the house with chores? Can you walk to school? Do you have recess time? Do you have gym time? So all of those things added together, 60 minutes is an achievable goal for kids.
And they realize that, right?
Yeah.
And for adults too, I think, again, to your point, it doesn't have to be 30 minutes at the gym, which may seem to most of us who have a lot of competing priorities over the course of the day. How am I ever going to get there? It's going to take away from something else I want to do because I want to get home and see my kids, or do like the 150 things that are on the list before I go to bed at night. How am I possibly going to get get to the gym for that half hour, 45 minutes, but it doesn't have to be that. You can do little things like you said, Eric, go take the stairs or park your car a little bit farther
And you
away.
don't have to be sweating profusely or wearing gym clothes to
Right.
exercise. I
Right.
mean, it's good to do that too, but
Yeah.
it's not completely necessary. It's not,
Yeah.
especially as you start. I love that thing. Start where you are.
Start where you are.
And don't try to go from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds.
And you find that when you do those little changes, it does start to snowball, and you start to feel better, and you have a little bit more energy. And
Sure.
the next thing
And
you
then
know,
you
you
wanna
are
do it more.
taking on, bigger goals. So it's
Yeah.
And so how about eating? Why is eating so hard? At least for some of us.
I
At least
for
for
all
me.
of us.
At least for me, eating is not hard for you. Are you the thinnest
No,
one in the room? It's Marianne.
No, it is. And, our society, all of our gatherings and everything we do is centered around food. Think of, your events that you attend, whether they're work or whether they're social, they all center around food.
Yeah.
And that's at best. Some people's lives center around food.
Exactly. There are family gatherings. I know our family, we're Italian, and we like to eat. And
Yeah.
that's just, who we are. And I think looking at the choices that you make is very important. The amount of food that you're taking in, maybe portion size, possibly knowing and planning ahead. I know I'm going to this event. Let me think about, how I'm going to eat differently maybe the day before or for the meal before.
Yeah. And just planning it.
Just making little subtle changes in the way you think.
Yeah, giving yourself permission to walk
giving
away
your-
from a family
exactly,
feast, because my
exactly.
family's Greek and I can relate very well to, the more food you have on the table, the better it
The
is.
better,
And
you
it's
don't want-
considered
The more
a
food you have on your-
failure
in
if
your
you
belly.
don't have, absolutely.
Yeah.
And how difficult it is to walk away from a family event and not take 3 bags of
Yes.
leftovers and have the insulted faces of, older family members saying,
Right.
why won't you take it?
My wife's grandmother, who was an immigrant, and we're Jewish, so we also had a lot of food, but used to say it's better to throw it in than throw it out.
Yeah.
So, which is wrong.
Which
It's
is
better to
wrong.
throw it out than to throw it in if you're not hungry.
Yes, and I will confess on television that I have thrown away quite a bit of food over the years,
Yes.
unbeknownst to my family.
And I think, your question was, why is it hard to eat to eat healthy? And I think one of the problems is that it's really easy to eat unhealthily. So
Yeah.
convenience is
And of course,
Yeah.
the marketing world conspires to help us to
Absolutely.
indulge ourselves in our worst. That we have to break right now. I want to thank you both. You'll both be back. We'll continue this discussion, and I know you're going to have some specific tips as to how to incorporate exercise in our day and eat healthily. So we'll be back to talk about that after this short break. Hi, Vicki and I are back with our guests Teresa Argodozzi and Marianne Gennario, talking about healthy living and actually some ideas, associated with your work group as to how we can live more healthy, and I know you've done a lot of stuff with kids too, so you have some really interesting ideas. Why don't you pick some and let us know?
Well, I know through the work group, we've created some opportunities for school-age children and parents to become involved in physical activity initiatives. And one of them was our Walk to School Day.
And tell us how that works, because this is something parents could organize with their own PTOs, even if they're not part of your group at all. So-
Yeah. So schools that are interested, we ask them to identify a drop-off spot or a meeting spot, whether it's a church or a business that isn't open, right at 7:30 in the morning, where everyone can kind of gather around a mile from school and then walk over together in a big groups. And then that way, there's a sense of community is built. Everyone can talk. It's really becomes.
So they walk to school together.
Yeah, that everybody walks to school together.
And you
That's a
have some
great
adult
thought.
monitors along
Yes,
with the kids to
yes.
make sure,
Yeah.
so that the whole thing, we were talking before the show, I used to walk home from school regularly as a small child.
But now it's an event. It
But-
has to be an
well,
event.
it was, I think, I wouldn't let my granddaughters walk home from
No,
school alone in a
absolutely.
million years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this change in our perception of what the dangers are out there
Yep.
for our kids.
But that sounds like a lot of fun, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm picturing now, a group of kids gathering by, the local general
Could you
store or
do
whatnot
it
and
once a
walking to
week?
school. Yeah.
It seems like it could be a really fun thing.
Yeah.
Except in the middle of the winter, I guess.
Probably not then.
No, it's a really fun event. We survey the parents afterwards, and we get a lot of really great feedback about. The kids get really excited about it, and the schools are really supportive. So, a lot of times the principal's outside to greet the kids who have walked to school. It's a fun event, and it raises awareness about the different ways you can be
Yes,
active. So walking to
exactly.
school isn't something we might do every day. Or maybe it is if we can identify places where you can have a crossing guard or
Right.
a monitor to help escort the kids. Then we can have those conversations about doing things more often.
But it's a sense of accomplishment also for the kids, and then it creates that positive reinforcement, that it felt good to do it. So maybe now, I'll do something else like that, and maybe they're not thinking about that consciously, but it'll make them more eager to do more physical
And
things.
how
I
else
would
can
imagine.
how else can you keep your kids active? Because again, there's so many things they can do where you sit and
Yeah.
you play video games with these whole groups of
Yeah.
people around the world. That could be a lot of fun.
I think the message that we try to give to kids is that the same message we give to adults: find what you like to do and do it. So I think
Do
it's the same thing with kids. They think to be active, to exercise means they have to join the soccer team, or
Right.
they have to be good in gym class. And a lot of times the kids that don't really like organized sports tend to be the ones that need the most activity. So find something that you like to do, whether it's jumping rope or playing, with friends, playing tag, going for a walk with your family. Those are things that, count as being active, and they make you feel good too.
Are any of the schools just staying open late and providing supervised centers where kids can be active, but
Where it's safe.
But creatively so?
Yeah.
If they want to play a game of basketball, they can do it, or go out in the playground and run around. It seems to me that's with working mothers and working fathers and
Yeah.
our need to supervise children, that we need places where they can be active but to be safe at the same
And the
time.
YMCA sounds like an ideal spot where a program like that might exist. Is there something like that?
We have different programs that are available to all ages. We also, have open gym time and open swim. And I also think that there are rec centers and recreational areas within the different surrounding towns which provide, the same opportunities.
Now, if there's somebody
Yeah.
at home that wants to try to find one of those, is there some place they can call, or how do they find out about what's available for them?
I think you would call your local city hall and ask. Also, the school.
Speak to
Schools are the
school.
Parks and Rec centers,
and
and
Rec
most towns
schools.
would know. Yeah, I think that's an excellent point.
We
to
hear
make.
a lot of feedback that there's so many wonderful things going on in this area that a lot of times people don't know about. So one of the things that the work group is looking to do is figure out a really good way to coordinate communication and make sure that a lot of our activity is around the different organizations at the table talking about the initiatives they have and then publicizing to their constituents,
Yeah.
some of the resources that are already available. So it is definitely an area that we're trying to work on.
That's a great idea because people need to know what's out there, and it might inspire a lot more folks to start taking advantage of these programs that exist out there.
Yeah.
What about healthy eating? We talked a lot about activity and exercise, but I know that there's an exciting program that you're working on, an initiative in the greater Norwalk area.
Yeah, the work group is developing a program to encourage restaurants and other food establishments in the area to promote and highlight the healthy options that they already offer on their menu. The National Restaurant Association has found that for every $1 Americans spend on food, almost half of it goes to prepared foods. So whether that's the grab and go at your local market or a sit down dinner at a fancy restaurant, we spend a lot of our budget on prepared foods. So we're trying to find a way. 70% of Americans say that they're looking for healthier options when they go to restaurants. So it makes good business sense too for the restaurants and the food establishments to highlight, what they're already offering.
Are you seeing
Yeah.
food establishments working to create healthier options? Because,
Because now the pressure's on them, right?
I
I
was
mean,
gonna
if
say,
everybody's
and,
doing it.
at least in my mind, you always think of healthy option, a salad, or a salad with a piece of chicken on it. But there,
Right.
there are other, you can
Yeah,
have
choices,
you can have
yeah.
broad. There's certainly eating healthfully is broader than a salad with a piece of chicken on it.
Yeah,
At least I hope so.
I hope
We've
so
gotten,
too.
yeah, exactly.
We'll find out.
We've gotten great
Not
feedback.
that I dislike
Yeah, no. The restaurants are really eager to participate. They have been coming to focus groups and giving us feedback and talking about the things that they're already offering. The hospital has been a great resource in helping us, from a registered dietitian standpoint to determine what really constitutes a healthy meal. And a lot of times, you're right, it doesn't have to be a salad with a piece of grilled chicken. It can be,
Right.
it can be some of the really more delicious options. Not that salads aren't delicious. But that's part of the point of the program is to show people that healthy eating can also be delicious and
Sometimes
indulgent.
it may be portion control, but you could
Yeah.
eat, if you had a small enough portion of almost anything, it's calorically controlled.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've talked about for the program is other programs around the country offer a take half to go option, so that
Yes.
Yeah.
when you order your food, you can ask the server to portion half to serve to you now and half to pack to go, so that you don't even have to make that decision
Right.
So you
That's
don't
a
have to clean
great
your plate,
idea.
or your
Yeah.
plate is clean before you finish
Exactly.
your dinner.
Exactly.
Because if it's there, you're more
I do
likely
know
to
that. That's-
consume it
Yeah.
than.
What about putting pressure on restaurants to have smaller portion sizes? I mean, I don't know if that's a new concept that I'm just coming up with, or if it's because I know you go into some restaurants and the portion that you get, like you said, is clearly 2 meals at
Yeah.
least.
Well, I think we've had some really good conversations with the restaurants. They're already doing a lot to make their offerings healthier. We wanted to present them with options so that they don't necessarily have to change the way they're doing business now. They can
Okay.
just highlight the things that
And
they're
of course,
already
the
doing.
onus
Okay.
is also on us. I think
Sure.
that,
Exactly.
again, when I lost quite a bit of weight a few years ago, you just make a point. You look at the plate, you say, I know how much this is, I'm going to eat this much of it, this much is going to the side, period.
Yeah.
And you make that decision ahead of time, and then you stick to it.
Yeah.
And I think if you plan ahead before going out to a restaurant, doing a little research, if you know where you're going, to maybe, get a copy of the
Look at the menu online, yeah.
online, sort of
And,
pre-select.
and there are easy ways
Yeah.
to take a lot of extra calories in. The bread that comes to the table ahead of time, the butter that's there, the oil.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
Before
found
you
I
know
lost
it,
weight
you've
on a
eaten.
cruise
Right.
during this period of time that I was trying to lose weight. And that's unlimited food that's put in front of you.
Yeah.
So it is doable just by deciding ahead of time that you're just going to maintain a certain, but you have to do it forever. It's not
Yeah.
just for a week or two, is it?
Well, that's why we encourage people to make a lifestyle change as opposed to diet and exercise, so to speak. Looking at how they're eating and what type of physical activity they're participating in, and making small changes so that they're sustainable and so that they can last their entire
Yeah.
life, that they can encourage their family members to follow the same, being good examples. I think that changing your habits is difficult, and I
Sure.
think we have a lot of challenges in our lives between work schedules and sports and finding time to do these things.
And it's
is
easy to
getting
fall
more and more
back to old habits too, right? When
Exactly.
stress comes along or something changes in your life, and it's important to think about that as a stumbling block, but something that you can get past and then go back to the way that you were living
That's why I always
healthy
thought
before.
the word diet is self-defeating in and of
Yeah.
itself, because
Yeah.
the moment you think that it's self-limited, you're going to
You've
fail.
lost the battle,
Sure.
right?
And that's why we really focus on things that people enjoy,
Yeah.
that there are delicious, healthy options out there. There are fun ways to be
Yeah.
active.
Right.
And I
Because
like
then-
beets. I actually really
Yeah.
like beets. and that's all we have time for. This is one topic we could talk
We could
about
talk
all
about this a
day.
long time, yeah.
But that's all we have time. We're going to ask you to stay here for a question, which we'll have after we take time for this short break.
But right now, let's look at some future events sponsored by Western Connecticut Health Network. Here's this week's health question.
Okay, Daniel asks us, how can we help our children eat healthier? We were talking about it, but how about a summary? How do we get our kids to eat well?
I think one great way is to lead by example.
Yes.
And also we find, you know, a lot of the programs and the initiatives that we do with children, if they see their friends eating a piece of broccoli, they're more likely to try it. So a lot of times, you know, when they're peers, I mean, you make it fun where everyone's, you know, having a healthy
Yeah.
snack, then they might be more likely to try things. Also, research shows that kids need to try something about 10 times before you can be absolutely sure that they don't like it.
Yeah.
You know, their initial reaction is usually going to be to a new food that it's that
That
they
they're
don't
not
like
sure,
it,
yeah.
but
So you
keep
just
trying.
keep trying.
Keep trying.
How about
Yep.
even as infants and you introduce food? Is there any correlation between giving vegetables early to kids and maintaining that to their ability to continue to eat them?
I think there's a good window when children are very young and they're trying new foods to try as many as possible, because once they hit a certain age in toddlerhood, they're a lot more resistant to new things.
Yeah.
So it's true.
So get in
A
as
wide
much as you
variety.
can, as wide a
Yep.
Right.
variety as you
And-
can.
And don't assume that if you don't like it as
That's
an
just
it. I was
adult,
just gonna
right,
ask that.
that your
Yeah.
child's not going to like it. So, you
Yeah.
know, even though you may not like lima beans, present the opportunity
Sure.
for them to try it and taste it and see what their, you know, feelings are about the food, because, you know, there's
They might surprise you.
they might
Right.
surprise you. You know, sometimes it's a texture thing, sometimes it's a smell. For, you know, but for children, they may not experience
So the
that.
idea,
Yeah.
introduce them to as broad an array of foods as possible,
Absolutely.
especially healthy foods,
Yeah.
and have them try it recurrently, even if they say
Yeah.
the first time they don't like it all that
And-
much.
and also,
and
I
then you
think-
yourself eat healthily. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
And portion control. I think we need to mention
Right.
that we don't have to push them to finish everything that's on their
so
plate.
clean plates are not necessarily good.
Right, and from an
Yes.
early age, to
And-
say that when
and-
they're full, they're full. They know, they sense their own bodies.
They're
They know that they're
self-regulating.
full.
And now we're out
Yeah.
of time. So if you have at home have a question you'd like to ask us on television and on Health Talk, please contact Vicki and me at HealthTalk at norwalkhealth.org.
Eric and I would like to thank our guests, Teresa Argondesi and Mary Ann Gennario, for coming on our show. And we will see you next week on Health Talk.
Bye-bye and eat well.